like going to every city and shaking hands and kissing babies with every fan that we could in order to create that fan base and create that that support. The pandemic has given us, an alternate way to reach all of our fans around the world at once. You know what I'm saying? And we haven't really took advantage of, this streaming and, the internet as much as we should have been. But now, it's given us something different and a different way to do it. So I think that, and what you have up, like, that was created out of the pandemic for that same reason, is that I had a new album coming out. I didn't know how I was going to be able to interact with my fans. So I created Beats and B-Sides in order to have an avenue where I could interact with my fans and build anticipation for my album without having to go on tour, without having to be face to face, without having to pass out flyers hand to hand. So that's why I did this. You know what I'm saying? That was something that pushed me in that direction.
So that was a later question, but since we're already here, I want to talk about this. So like, you and I talked about a month ago on Facebook, and I would just kind of tell you like what I was going through on the pandemic, and I mean like what I was going through during the quarantine. It's like one of the first, like, this might have been right around the time your album dropped or whatever, and we really had like a decent building session via Facebook Messenger. And I remember like earlier this year, I remember Cesar Comanche, he was doing this thing to where he was like, look, I'm selling every single album in my catalog for $5. You hit me on the DM. He's like, we ain't doing no Bandcamp, we ain't doing no website. You hit me up personally, you cash at me, you Venmo me, you PayPal me $5, and I'll send you the album. And he did this for like 10 weeks straight with every single album he did. And he did very, very well. And so when we were talking, he was just like, he was telling me how like a lot of people, like a lot of underground guys, independent artists, they didn't necessarily do well in other times. That kind of shifted the music industry. So when the music industry, when it went from strictly like, CDs and records to online, a lot of people ain't make it out. When it went to MySpace and MySpace folded, a lot of people ain't make it out. When the record stores started shutting down, a lot of people ain't make it out. When the OK Players and all hip hops and the word of South.coms, they didn't make it out. So he impressed upon me the importance of making sure that during this pandemic, you know what I'm saying, as much as you possibly can, from a mental standpoint, everybody, the pandemic affected everybody differently. A lot of people lost lives, and I lost my father, so I was whatever. But he was like, as much as your mental can take it, he was like, find a creative way to kind of keep in contact, with your fan base and things of that nature. So as a person who's been like studying what you're doing, like I saw Print drop this book, you know what I'm saying? And I saw you coming with the B-sides, you know what I'm saying? And it folded into you releasing your album on October 20th. So like a question I have, like Blueprint told me about how much Super Duty Tough Work helped him in pushing forth Two-Headed Monster. Like that was, he was like, basically that was some of the best promotion he's ever had, and he decided not to go through Fat Beats or a distributor because his numbers was up, because he had amassed this different type of following that tuned in pretty weekly. You know what I'm saying? Pretty much whatever. Yep. In my, from outside looking in, I feel like B-Side, along with Super Duty Tough Work and being the most dangerous podcast and people tuning in every Sunday, I feel like this was that for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so I guess my question is to you, like, in what ways specifically did your rollout, like, how was your rollout different, and like from other rollouts that you've had when you've released the album, now that you've found this particular way to connect with your fans?
It was completely different. I had never done anything like it. And also I had never interacted with my fans like this via social media. I was horrible. And I'm getting better, but I was horrible with social media. I didn't really post a lot unless I had something going on, which makes it seem like, to the average person, it's like you only come to me when you want something. You know what I'm saying? You only coming to me when you want me to spend some money on your record. But what about the in-between times? Like, you act like I'm not here, kind of thing. And I think what this did for me and even, you know, doing Super Duty Tough Work, you know, a lot of the things that we talk about, a lot of those are lessons not only for that we give to other people, but lessons for ourselves as well. And I think doing Super Duty had really put me in check about, you know, really engaging my audience and really giving them something to grab hold of. And with Beats and B-Sides, it was a way for me to kind of, you know, reactivate my core audience, because my core audience is the cats that every time, no matter what, even without this, you know, they still pay attention, but, you know, it's still kind of not as, you know, kind of an afterthought, because that's the way that I looked at it. And that's the way that I treated it. But with Beats and B-Sides, I was coming before them every week. And especially with me producing now, I had different ways to share things. I had different things to share. So, you know, I had, you know, unreleased music to play. I had all this stuff to play to engage my audience and reactivate my hardcore fan base and get them excited about my record. And, you know, so I was basically promoting this album for, you know, almost a year before it came out. And this was like a 3 to 4 month campaign just using Beats and B-Sides, where, you know, I had the announcement all the time. It was always mentioned. Everybody knew the album was coming, and it was, you know, something to get everybody excited. So I never had anything like that. I didn't really get a publicist for this record. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I got a publicist for one of my videos. I didn't get a publicist for any write-ups or anything like that, get me on podcasts. My publicist did a couple things, like, because people were contacting him just because he promoted the video, but people started contacting him about that. But a lot of this was just done by myself, because I really wanted to create that relationship again that I had with my fans when I was touring regularly, when I was younger, when I first started, and I was out there for 3 months straight, you know, once or twice a year, being in their faces and touching hands and kissing babies and all that stuff. So this was my way of getting back into that mode and really reactivating my fan base and letting them know that, you know, I was back and I was really serious about this project and serious about my career going forward. And, you know, there's a lot of cats that started watching Beats and B-Sides that thought I had stopped rapping because they had stopped checking for stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even though I was still releasing albums, I was still releasing an album every year or two, but the way that I would promote it wasn't nearly what I should have been doing with the records, and those records weren't that successful either. You know, but I think they were some good work, but it wasn't successful because I didn't put the push and the dedication behind it. With this record, I really put forth some effort and dedication and thought and had a plan and really executed that plan. And Beats and B-Sides was something that came out of the pandemic, and it wasn't really even part of the plan initially, but it came up and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use this to build anticipation for my record, and it worked beautifully.
So yeah, so man, that is what you're talking about. So I don't know if you remember the conversation we had when I was telling you what I had going on, and I felt like, you know, yeah, we talked about our particular albums, and I was telling you how, like, man, I think, like, I sold a whole lot of shit, and then the sales kind of stopped. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, I'm out of, you know, everybody's trying to figure it out during the quarantine, during the pandemic. Like, I've really made my bread as a touring artist over the last 4 years, and then to have a whole year where that shit is just gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. So a lot of people bought a whole lot of shit from me, and then it kind of stopped by the time I actually re-released the album that I was promoting. And it did what it did real quick, but then it kind of faded out or whatever. And so I came up with I was like, well, damn, I've been selling niggas shit for 6 months straight. You know what I'm saying? And they bought everything that I put out, right? It's time for me to, you know, it's time for me to, like, kind of like you said, like, the only time I'm kind of, you know, and I'm always actively doing stuff. And I've had another podcast in 2015 or whatever. But he like, with me doing Really Outchea or whatever, and even the just Deconstructed, here is a kind of like a no strings attached piece of art that I can give you that you ain't got to buy shit. All you got to do is click a link. Like, I've asked you to buy shit this whole time, but now I just want to talk to you and I want to give you something or whatever. And you know, see, keep it overhead low, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Something that it just takes time. It doesn't really take a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of hoops. It just takes you sitting down and like really talking with your people or what have you.
Right.
So I tried to keep this conversation linear, but I failed. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back a little bit, right? So we talk a lot about Super Duty. We talked a lot about Super Duty here. We talked about, you know what I'm saying, Blueprint or what have you. I want to talk about the greenhouse a little bit, right? So
Okay.
So I want to play this song Cold Out Here by Greenhouse. I want to say this came out in 2010. You guys put out, and I'm gonna play it, then I'm gonna ask you a couple questions about that. Then we move on to the next.
Okay.
Cool.
Mean bars, mean things. It's real focused and mean. No, it's how you just gotta go all the way in. No. Yeah. What the fuck I'm holding back for? It's time to bring it. Waiting on a record deal is like waiting for FEMA. After what I've been through, man, they can keep it. I'd rather stay up in my basement making heaters. I used to battle rap face to face with a rapper. You on YouTube talking tough to a camera. Everybody got goons and they clapping hammers. You diss him, he diss you, but don't nothing happen. Last week you was in the hood ducking cops. This week you wrote about it all in your blog. You don't wanna do music, man, you wanna talk. Propping up an album that we all know ain't gonna drop. Shit sound like the dead of winter when it's cold. When you look outdoors and all you see is snow. You can't escape it all, feel it all in your bones, nowhere else to go. So I'ma put it in my songs. While other cats is out playing or on vacation, I'm stuck in Bus Town playing on my PlayStation. Mad at this damn game cause I can't exchange it. And my state lost the most jobs in the nation. This much bigger than a couple rappers making paper, or even independent hip-hop versus major. Y'all ain't saying things a common man can relate to, but instead of listening, you rather call us haters. I'm out. Cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold. Cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold. You think tomorrow is a promise, but it's only a request. So while you're paying homage, be sure to watch your step. The people you acknowledge and those you haven't met are on the lookout, hoping that you fall to your death. Didn't want to see me make moves because they're stagnant. I'm dropping off my luggage while they're gathering more baggage. Their progress is sluggish, I maneuver fantastic. The gridlock, I rise above it, they're fighting the traffic. They only see the dunk, they don't see the assist. They say all I have is luck, but I worked hard for this. It's hard to stay grounded cause I'm not scared of flying. The only thing that causes me fear is not trying. They criticize the steps I make but they don't bother. I stepped out on faith and now I'm walking on the water. My wife is proud to follow me, I'm happy as I wanna be. You thought you had caught up with me, but now I'm where you wanna be. A message to my legacy, be the silver lining. Even if you fall on your face, just keep grinding. They need to rechannel all the energy they hate with. The world is on my shoulders, but I told you that I'm weightless. Cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold out here, man, it's cold. It's cold.
All right, let me bring this back on screen. So, man, I'm gonna put this on mute. We're gonna talk a little bit while the video playing. Shout out to Catalyst. I ain't got time to hear your verse, brother. You know what I'm saying? Your verse is dope. We just, we are a little bit behind, so I'm gonna let him rock, silently as we discuss. So, if I'm not mistaken, Greenhouse dropped 2 albums before you and Blueprint officially became Greenhouse.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it 2? Well, it was actually 2. Well, an album and 2 albums. Is it 2? Yeah, 2 albums and 2 EPs they dropped before me and Print became Greenhouse. Yeah.
So, what spurred about you becoming, I guess, the latest and the last iteration of Greenhouse, being part of the group?
Well, I mean, it was just one of those things, like, Manifest had stole money from Waitlist, stole money from the company, disappeared. And Inkwell had left the group to pursue a gospel rap career at the time. So Greenhouse was done for the most part, and me and Print was, the main cats with Waitlist at the time. Like we had Zero Star, we had Envelope, we had a couple, other cats that were on the label, but me and him were the main two. So we thought, Print asked me like, "Yo, you want to make a Greenhouse record? You want to be part of Greenhouse?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" You know what I'm saying? Like, why not? You know what I mean? My first, song as part of Waitlist in general, before it was Waitlist, was the song Waitlist with Greenhouse that was on the Up to Speed EP. So, it only made sense. And especially if we were trying to push the label a little further and really, get some more clout with the artists that we were putting out at the time, it made sense for the two flagship artists to team up and create something. So Greenhouse was, the perfect iteration because it already had a name, but with me and Blueprint teaming up as a group, it made it a little more powerful.
So my other question is this: will we get another Greenhouse album?
I'm not sure. I'm hoping so. Me and Print have done, I think, 2 new songs. Well, I've done a couple verses for beats that he sent me saying like, this is for some Greenhouse shit. So I think it's in the plans. We just don't have a plan right now. You know what I'm saying? Like we both doing our own solo things, and we're both, like doing the podcast, and we both got a lot of shit going on, but I think it'll happen, probably at some point.
And for me, that's the reason why I want to hear another one, right? Because, I want to say the last Greenhouse album came out in 2013, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 8 years later, now you're a producer making your own beats. Now you are shooting your own videos. Now you have your podcast and you're streaming. You know what I'm saying? Now both, now Super Duty Tough Work is dope as a motherfucker. Print is now making movies, shooting videos, writing books. So for me, like, and I mean this, I'm a fan of both of yours art, right? But I would be a liar if I didn't say that I consume more of your other stuff, because it's fascinating, right? Like I tell people, Super Duty Tough Work is like, if you're an independent underground artist, this is your Bible. This is your audio Bible, right? So I watch the streams, I read the books, I listen to the podcast, you know what I'm saying? And so for me, like, of course I want to hear the art, right? But both of you guys creatively, you know what I'm saying, and putting out art in different ways, you guys have grown so much in 2013. So I'm really excited. Like I want to, of course I want to hear the rap and I want to hear the beats, but man, with y'all two minds together working on one project, y'all goddamn, the rollout would be, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, like, that's just as a fan of a rap nerd when it comes to shit like that, like, of the independent hustle, man, like you guys do it so well. So I would be super duper interested to see how y'all do that. So make note of the fact that Marcel P. Black, this guy in Louisiana, wants another Greenhouse album, and I want the full. And look, and wait till the pandemic is over, because I want the tour too.
Word.
I want the tour. Man, I want the full experience, man.
Yeah, I really want to do it. Because Print is like my brother, man. Like, with I got 3 younger brothers, and I got an older cousin that I'm really close with. But other than that, like, Print is like the brother, my brother from another mother. As much as that is a cliche, like that's really how we live. You know what I'm saying? So making music with Print is always super fun, and really pushes me, because we're both trying to outdo each other. Usually with the Greenhouse stuff, it's not super dense. Like we get pretty deep on some songs, but for the most part, like, we just trying to out rap each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a competition. It's like back in the day when we were just, coming, doing the Waitlist stuff really early, like everybody trying to out rap each other, and we get back to that competitive nature when we get on tracks together. So, I would be excited to do another project. I think we're going to do it though.
Y'all definitely have a natural chemistry, and it shines through in every single thing that you guys do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like it shines through, man. Like from the podcasting to the music and everything, like it shines through. So one thing you said earlier, I'm trying to work on my transitions, man. I apologize, but
oh, it's all good.
One thing you said earlier was touring, how you went to cities 2 or 3 times, you know what I'm saying, a year to stay in contact. We had to both, you and I both had to like switch up the way we do things because of the pandemic, right? So I've read Oh What a Night, you know what I'm saying? I've heard your tour stories on the podcast. I'm going to ask you a question that I did not get the answer from Carnage because I started talking too much over the goddamn answer. Myself as a that's why I say I'm not an interviewer, man. I'm a conversationalist because I don't want to disrespect interviewers because I'll be fucking up all type of goddamn journalistic rules. Okay. When you go out on the road, especially like you in the Midwest, right? You tour with the Rhyme Sayers Cats, you tour with Print, you know, ID and abilities. A lot of the people in the crowd don't look like us. Right? So my question, when it comes to underground hip hop, from a touring standpoint, when it comes from underground hip hop to like who owns the labels, why, you know, in terms of rappers, when it comes to consumers, when it comes to venue owners, when it comes to like people who are actually releasing the music, why do you think Black people are the minority?
That's a big question.
Look, I be wanting to know this. Like I have my opinions, but I'm a Southerner, so my views is whatever. But like my experience is probably different from a lot of people who are not from down here. So this is just something that I always like to talk about. Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's my question.
Well, it didn't used to be that way. When hip hop first started, all the crowds were Black and Latino. There was hardly no white faces except the one dude, you know, that was a DJ or that his roommate, you know what I'm saying, in college put him on to hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't used to be like that. My thought about that is as hip hop became more commercialized and the faces of hip hop in general were African American. Once it got more commercialized and the things that started to be what was pushed in the forefront was the partying, the drinking, the fun, not as much the educational aspect, not as much of the uplifting aspect. That is what we gravitated to, unfortunately, as a culture. So a lot of the cats that were raised on Public Enemy, that were raised on KRS-One, they still listen to it, but going out to the shows is a different story. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot more Black fans, I think, that buy my music than come to my shows.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I honestly don't know. I have a thought about it, and I think it may be an attitude of our culture that is an issue about us supporting each other in financial ways. And this is across the board. This isn't just hip hop. This is across the board, just like, you know, supporting Black businesses. You know, like there is there's a stigma about, you know, supporting certain things that aren't popular within our culture. We always want to be popular. And I think the things that we get fed by mostly white executives of, you know, these music industry, you know, labels and the radios and stuff, it's not anything to edify us. So as we continue to grow, we continue to get fed this stuff that isn't edifying. So when you hear something that's different from what you're used to and something that makes you think, as a culture, we usually shun it for some reason. Just like, you know, the smart kid that get bullied for getting straight A's. Like and I don't know, they've programmed us in a way where being educated is being white. You know what I'm saying? So when you have artists that are educated, and most of the underground artists usually, especially the Black ones, usually have some type of message with what they're saying and aren't just about party and bullshit, that's not the popular thing. And unfortunately, we don't support it. You know what I'm saying?
So,
Unfortunately, as a culture, we don't support it. And I mean, it sucks, but it's the truth. But I think it's coming back around in a short, in very tiny ways. It's coming back around as far as hip hop. Because you do have, you know, I mean, look at the artists that got nominated for Grammys this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is coming back around. It's just slowly that is coming back around. And those cats still ain't getting played on the radio like that. You don't hear
nah.
Rhapsody on the radio.
So,
You don't hear Toby on the radio.
So I guess so. Okay, man. I can't remember. It was one of the EPs. He's put out so much. I want to say EP dropped in maybe 19. Open Mike Eagle. He ends the EP where he says, "Trying to reach black kids in a room full of white folk." Right.
Yep.
I am an unapologetic pro-black conscious rapper. Make no bones about it. I try to be 2021 dead president was one person. Right. Make no bones about it. I claim it. It is what it is. I have amassed a fan base that allows me to travel all over the country. Unless I'm in a chocolate ass city, I'm rapping in front of mostly white people, right? Unless I'm in Atlanta or Birmingham or Memphis, you know what I'm saying? I'm rapping in front of mostly white people.
Even in those cities, I'm rapping in front of mostly white people.
Damn.
You know, like when I put out Unforeseen Shadows, there was debates about if I was white or black.
So when I first heard of, not so much you, but when I first heard of Blueprint, my man Matt Bruce, he was a college radio station guy for years here at KLSU, and I asked him about Blueprint. This is after the Soul Position album, and the pictures aren't on the album. You know what I'm saying? I don't think, you know, whatever. Like, it's just the graphic, and he was like, I think that's why Blueprint has such a white fan base. Cause you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think nobody knows. I don't think nobody knows he's black or what have you. That's what he said, you know, just joking around.
And it was the same with me because my picture wasn't on any of my early albums.
Right. Yeah. But I think so man, I have so many theories on this. You're 100% correct in the sense that, like, and I think what aggravates me the most, specifically with underground hip hop, well, hip hop in general, but being an underground touring artist, it's like, we determine what's cool. White people determine what they're going to sell us.
Right.
So we determine what's cool. I mean, them niggas think that shit cool. Let me sell it to everybody, but let me throw some white supremacy in it. And we get so caught up in the capitalistic and the clout popularity side that we overlook the art that really speaks to us, right? So,
right.
I hear Lord Jamar and I hear all these other people when they say that, like, white people are against the hip hop. I'm not gonna say I don't. Here's my stance on it. It's hard for me to say that, Jawar, when I go places and black people can give a fuck about turntablism.
Yeah.
They can give a fuck about graffiti.
Yeah.
They can give a fuck about breaking. When I see the real 4 elements of culture and appreciation for the art form, when I go to Texas, I see Mexican MCs and they die hard serious about this shit. When I go to South Florida, I see the Caribbean or Latinos cats who are die hard about fucking breakdance and they serious about this shit. When I go to New England, I see the white MCs who will literally punch you in your face if you kick a written during the freestyle session. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When I go to the Midwest, I did a show at Sub T's in 2018. And it just so happened that you know, I'm a country nigga. I mean, I was blessed to get on this bill and I'm happy, but like, this shit was a fundraiser for like a B-boy academy, right? And I'm you know, and all the music I brought with me was slow as a motherfucker. Thank God I'm a decent performer and I didn't lose the B-boys. But like, I was like, the club was packed and I'm one of maybe 10 black people in there, but the room for this B-boy summit or whatever fundraiser, the room was filled with Asian cats, Arabic cats, you know what I'm saying, Middle Eastern cats, Spanish cats, you know what I'm saying, white people, like Eastern European people, right? And like black people are the minority when it comes to it. So it's hard for me to say that white people are against in hip hop when I go out and I see white people are the ones really buying the records. They're actually engaging in the culture, right? Now, don't
They
get it twisted.
support the culture.
They support the culture. They support the culture.
Yeah.
Like I always say this. When it comes to hip hop, as far as the music industry, man, they don't give a fuck about me at 37. They don't give a fuck about you about to be 41, right? They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in the culture. It don't matter how old we are.
Yeah.
The people who I look up to, Superstition, Cesar Comanche, yourself, Blueprint, y'all in your 40s, right?
Yeah.
Y'all can drop an album every year, the older that you get, and nobody's gonna give a shit because you're in the culture. It's not about all the other shit, right? You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, so I don't have a big social media following, right? I don't. Like, Facebook is my most thing. I ain't got a whole lot of Twitter. I ain't got a whole lot of Instagram. I ain't got a whole lot of subscribers on YouTube or nothing like that, right? But I'm able to perform in 30 states a year because I'm in the culture and I'm tapped in. And my fan base doesn't look for clout. They don't look for the popular shit. They don't look for the cosigns. They look for, man, this nigga spitting. I like his music, and he put on a good fucking live show. And I mean, what we talked about with Carnage, right? Carnage just turned 46. And that nigga's one of the best live performers. And he'll be in his 50s, maybe 60s if he wants to, because the art that he gives, the art that he brings to the table is so valuable. And it kind of, it like, so for me specifically as a Black conscious rapper, right? Like, I had to reconcile with the fact that I'm going to not to be rapping in front of my people. You know what I'm saying? Now, with that said, I think that a lot of times, and not you, but I saw this in the past. I think that sometimes us underground guys could be elitists, and we think that some of the things that, like, I can tell you, like, you know, the Midwest independent hustle that is popping up in Minnesota with Sadiq and Slug and all them dudes, they just perfecting what goddamn Master P bought right back from the Bay Area in terms of releasing independent rap, right? Like the whole, of course, the quote unquote out the trunk independent hustle started by niggas in the South. The white boys in goddamn Arizona took it, and the white boys in Minnesota took it, and they did their thing with the shit. They took it national, right? So like that type of Southern hustle, independent hustle, like the underground hip hop guys were able to take it to a different way, but the street dudes have never stopped doing that shit, right? Like,
right. I mean, same with Too Short. I mean, so
right.
You know,
but that's what started
Too Short,
like
E40,
right? Yeah. So like Master P got it from the first quote unquote mom and pop hip hop store that kind of functioned as a record label was a store owned by E40's Uncle St. Charles. So like when people talk about the Bay Area independent hip hop plus out the trunk shit or whatever, well, I digress. Too Short and JT, the bigger figure out of Frisco and in Oakland or whatever, they kind of pioneered out the trunk shit. But the record store aspect out of it, E40's Uncle St. Charles, who was from Louisiana originally, you know what I'm saying? He pioneered the shit with the mom and pop stores. And Master P brought it to the South, and then it kind of spread. But like, so what's happening with Mello, what's happening with Rhyme Sayers, what's happening with Stone's Throw, those are just different iterations of what began on the West Coast by Southern transplants, came to the South, you know what I'm saying, and whatever, you know what I'm saying? Places, and it all has to do with places that ain't got no buildings. When I talk to rappers from New York, they look at me crazy as shit when I tell them all the shit that I do, because they can go outside, look at a goddamn record label. Like they've only tried to go pitch their album to a record label. They've never done none of this shit. And so they come down here with us and we like, I'm not gonna name no names, but it's rappers from up there that the second half of their career got they had a whole second act in their career because they came down south to learn how to do this shit independently within the last 5 or 6 years. I tell you off the podcast, I ain't gonna say it on the podcast, whatever. But so what's frustrating about it to me is the fact that I feel like, man, a lot of times, and just anything, be it I'm in education, right? And I look at like some of the dopest hip-hop educators on the HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that is really in this is analyzed and is broken down by all these white scholars and is put in these academic presses and things of that nature. But the black students, they don't have the money to go to Harvard. They ain't got the whatever. You know what I'm saying? This black consciousness that is really speaking to our people. You know, don't get it twisted. I love my white fans, and not because they shop with me. It's because, you know, we kiss women and babies, and we do genuinely have relationships with these people. And for that moment in time and moving forward, it's not about race or color. But
Right.
I make conscious rap for gang members, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have Bloods and Crips in my shows so they can hear
Mm-hmm.
because I'm making this music for you, right? And
Yeah.
like, even like, and you would think, like, as a conscious artist, bro, like, you would think in the era of Black Lives Matter or the wokeness or whatever, you would think that, you know, just in general, even goddamn hoteps, right? Like,
Yeah.
like in the era of there being a heightened level of consciousness because of what we see that's going on in the world, you would think that artists who make more of this art, even if it's not necessarily conscious, but it's like, you know, it's absent of the party and bullshit, you would think that, you know, Black folks would be like, all right, them niggas is really speaking to what we living. You know what I'm saying? You would get more support.
Mm-hmm.
And come out to the shows. So that's always a question I like to ask people who've toured, you know what I'm saying, a lot. Like, coming from the South, it's like, you know, you start out rapping in front of Black people, and the more you travel, you know, in the name, the bigger it gets. You see less Black people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
Especially,
I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, my bad. I think the one of the things is that I had to come to a realization about, because in the beginning of my career, it bothered me that it wasn't more Black people coming to my shows, and it bothered me a lot because I felt like the stuff that I was saying, even, you know, just rapping about whatever, you know, just battle raps, like, I felt like I wanted to perform for my people. But as I got older, I started to understand, as an artist, it's more about who supports you than it is about what they look like.
I agree.
And so I started to understand more about the business aspect of it as well. And that made me really look at it in a different light. And, you know, really, I mean, some of my closest relationships in the music world are not with Black people, unfortunately.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, some of them, like, I mean, I have a lot of close Black friends that rap as well, but I made friends with so many people that don't look like me, but are still of like minds, that I started to be like, well, you know what I'm saying? If Black people listen to it, they listen to it. If they don't, they don't. You know what I'm saying? And not really beating myself up about it like it was something that I could control.
Nah. I mean, so I'm sure you don't know the history of Baton Rouge, man. They call Baton Rouge Jig City. There's a particular style of dance music and culture called jig music, and it's like, like, Boosie don't even do jig music. That's it's a different style for what he does, but it's a club type, right? And I've been a goddamn conscious. I'm a career conscious backpacker. You know what I'm saying? So I've never fitted in my city, and I've always had to work hard to find those pockets of people, right? And so for purposes of clarification, I have no problem having white fans. I have no problem working with white people doing music, this, that, and the third, as long as you respect Black people and respect Black culture and respect the culture of hip hop, right? I just think that I guess, and I don't beat myself up about it because I do what I do, right? But sometimes, hell, if I throw a fishing rod out with bait and goddamn bass is what I catch on the line, that is just what I'm gonna eat.
Right.
I can't get mad. God damn it, this ain't no crappie. No, nigga, I'm about to eat what I'm gonna eat. You know what I'm saying? So, but right. I think at the end of the day, man, I just think that I just want to kind of just speak to the gap that exists in the void of Black faces when it comes to this. And then, like I said, from a, like, you can't, like, you know, you and Print have waitlist, right? I mean, even from a business standpoint, like, most of the independent underground hip hop labels aren't ran by Black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. you can say the two most notable ones that do, you know what I'm saying? I guess you could say Jambler, you know what I'm saying? What Knife is doing. Strange Music is independent. I don't know if I would call it underground hip hop, but it's definitely independent. You know what I'm saying? It's Black owned or what have you. And then, you know, you have like the smaller groups, you know, the smaller situations, but for the most part, like, there is no, you're not going to find a Black owned record label with black artists that's the equivalent of Rhymesayers. And
Right.
and so
But
like,
Rhymesayers is black owned though.
Sadiq, and you're right. But like, but people,
And Slug.
people, Slug is mixed.
Slug
You're
is
right. You're right.
Yeah.
But when people think Rhymesayers, people don't think black underground hip hop though, right? And
This is true.
a lot of people don't know Slug is white. Justin had to tell me. I mean, Slug is mixed or whatever, right? Slug had to tell me. I mean, Justin had to tell me. But when people don't, thank you for correcting me there. I will stop saying that shit. But when people think of Rhymesayers, that's not what they think at all. You know what I'm saying?
No,
and,
they don't. They don't.
Right. And I guess it's for me, like, I thought about this a couple of years ago, like, what could I do to bring the culture of underground hip hop, you know, including all 4 elements and whatever you want to add to it, back to the hood? And whoever figures that shit out got the goddamn golden ticket. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like
straight up.
Get the street niggas on some, you know, not even boom bap backpack, but like shit that is filled with like cultural intentions, you know, specifically with like hip hop and not all the radio shit or whatever. So boom, I'm looking at this kind of late. Let's get to your album, bro. Let's get to your album.
Word.
Let's get to your album, brother. You dropped Autopilot on October 20th, independently. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Watching your rollout has been dope as a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
Watching everything that goes along with it. The album is dope. I think the fact that you produced it, I feel like you took you did like a lot more singing and like melodic stuff on there. You even had your wife on there. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I feel like with you like doing it yourself 100%, you took a whole lot more artistic chances and you nailed it.
Yeah, thanks,
you know
man. Appreciate that.
It stuck home or whatever. So we're gonna look at this video. I got one more question and then we're gonna slide.
Word.
People who need people. All the luckiest people in the world.
Galaxy in hand, unlocking secrets of universes through verses. Feet propped on the ottoman. All the men I draw with, I'll fall with. We dispel summer just to bring autumn in. Fragments of sanity by the boatload, hoping to stay on deck. We sail and shuffle 52, cause we were dealt a hand of wave crashes. Seasick, the sound of the undertow could drown you. But my people stay Hercules. Although we hurt, we get our knees a little dusty and pray for peace. Cause we dream so vivid, it's vintage hype visuals. The colors pop from maxed out resolution. Let's make sure our seeds fan out and realize that our culture's where we need to start a revolution. Seek solutions found in the creases of unity. Embrace the challenges, seeing problems as opportunities. There's no promised land without you and me sinking in solidarity. Rescuing those sinking in status quo. I know that thinking is heresy, but it's presently a necessity. I can't achieve without you next to me, so let's move. The world's spinning even if it's still. If you don't take advantage, then another man will. It's time to show what we about. Let's show the work of our hands and stop running our mouth.
Yo, for purposes of time, I'm gonna stop it right there. Get back to the next question. I'm just looking at the time. We've been on here. Tell me I've been running my mouth, man. You gotta excuse me, brother.
All good, all good.
Hey, man, I appreciate you staying on this line with me. I know you're an hour ahead of me, so I'm gonna respect your time. Okay, a question that I got reminded when I saw you with the camera. A question that I always ask every guest on No Matter podcast. Do you remember when we met in person? Do you even remember?
I don't know if it was the first time. I do remember me talking to you at and I think we took a picture too at the 2x2. I don't know if that's the first time we met or not. So if that's not the first time, then I don't remember the first time.
I think that was the first time we slapped dab. I want to say so.
Okay.
I did 2x2 in 18. I performed in 18, and I was supposed to perform in 19, but it didn't happen. But Cole was like, "Hey man, we kind of, you know, we didn't get to do what we wanted to do, so I'm gonna give you a free merch table." And so I saw because print. So in 18, Print and what's the DJ's name who did the Two-Headed Monster tour with him? What's his name?
Rick Groove? Is it Groove?
No,
Or was
no,
it
no, no, no.
Detox?
Detox.
Right.
Detox fucked with me too. I feel bad that I feel bad that I forgot his name. Shout out to Detox. They came to Baton Rouge in June of 2018. And then I did 2x2 in Columbus in 19. And I saw you out there. And Drew, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I'd be like mad country dumb and I get a little fanboyish. And so I'd be trying to like, I want to go talk to these people who I know that I listen to, but I'd be like, man, I know I'm a big nigga, so when I run up on somebody, people do whatever, you know what I mean? So I saw you, and I definitely spoke to Print, and I definitely spoke to Detox, but I saw you, I ain't speak to you because you was out there with your fedora on and your camera, you know what I'm saying? And which, I mean, and I'm starting to realize this too, and I know you know this as well, like, we listen to you every week, so we feel like we know you. Right. Y'all know who the hell we are. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know who the hell we are. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, so I don't think I spoke to you then. 2019, I'm at my table and you're looking at the merch, and I think you recognize the rapper over vocal shit. Because you came by my table and you looked down. I'm like, Elijah, what's up, man? And you was like, yo, what's up? He was like, what's up? I said, hey, let's take a picture. And so so I have it, and I'm gonna use it for the graphic for this podcast, but you're holding up my Real MC No Rapper with Vocals button. And that was the first time like we kind of like interacted and slapped up or whatever. But yeah, so you know, I told you I'm not linear. I should have asked you that first, but here we are at the end of the interview. I'm just not asking you that shit. Okay, so tell me about this album, man. Tell me about this album. Tell me what inspired it. Tell me what did it feel like to do it, you know what I'm saying, recording it, mixing it, mastering it, producing it all by yourself, as opposed to some of your other stuff.
Well, this album is called Autopilot. The reason behind the name is during the time of me making the beats and recording and doing a lot of the writing. It's a twofold meaning, but I felt like I was divinely inspired, you know what I'm saying, you know, to create this piece of art. And on the flip side, you know, a lot of the content of the record, I think that a lot of us as human beings are on autopilot because we're waiting for somebody else, be it the government, be it, you know, people outside of ourselves, to be in control of the things around us without us trying to control them ourselves. So, you know, a lot of the content in the album, like the video you're playing now, Aphex Twin, is kind of in that vein of, you know, talking about us, you know, kind of not being in control of the things that we should be in control of. And, you know, I think that is one of the points that I wanted to drive home on this record, you know, because a lot of the content is, you know, hidden with that meaning. Like even, you know, a song like Out of This World has dual meaning, where, you know, I'm talking about a relationship, you know, a song I wrote for my wife and talking about kind of leaving, you know, this place and kind of, you know, sharing each other's circle. But it's also a song about us, you know, as people kind of leaving the regular shit behind and, you know, really creating these relationships again and not being so drawn to our phones, so just existing on social media, not really having community anymore. So there's a lot of, you know, a lot of themes, even the video, The Depth that you played, you know, that was one of those songs where I'm speaking to us, you know, speaking to my people, just about, but it's also a song that's bigger than just my people. That's originally what I meant it for, but it's another song about, you know, determination, and a song about making sure that we're doing the things that we've been called to do and not just sitting around watching and waiting for somebody else to do the work that we should be doing for ourselves and for our own communities. So, and then of course there's, you know, a lot of spitting on there. And as far as the production, I mean, I told myself when I did Celestial Clockwork that I wanted to produce an album of my own at some point. And at that time, I said that it would be my last album that I produce, that I do is going to be the album that I produce. It's not going to be, you know, I'm already halfway through my next record, but I just really like took production seriously during the time that I, in preparation for this record, and I didn't know that this was going to be the record that came out of it, but I took the time to study production for, 2 or 3 years straight. I barely wrote a rhyme. All I was doing was learning how to make beats, watching tutorials, asking print questions, asking blockhead questions, asking, other friends of mine that produce questions, learning different software, buying records, understanding the records, learning how to chop, learning how to, like all of that stuff. I really put the time in to learn how to produce. And the crazy thing about Autopilot is most of the beats on Autopilot are some of my earlier beats. When I like, I was probably maybe a year into production when some of these beats were created. Like, some of these beats are like beat 30, or beat, 45, and that's how they're labeled originally on my computer. So, I really took that portion of it seriously, and even the engineering and the mixing of the record. I wanted it to sound a certain way. I mean, I actually had a friend of mine. I gave it to him to mix because I was, kind of iffy on my mixing, and I wanted the record to be as special as it could be. So I wanted it to sound. I wanted it to sound good. I wanted it to bang. I wanted everything to punch. And he gave a couple passes at it, and it didn't sound how I wanted it to sound. And one of the things that I've learned during this whole process is once you get a hold of control, it's very hard to relinquish it because what you're going for.
You know what you want, right?
Yeah, you know what you want. So, like I took back the reins of that and I mixed the record multiple times. And, once I got it mastered, it really, sounded how I wanted it to sound. And, I did everything from, the album cover, I took that photo, like some of the videos that Print did 2 of the videos, the rest of the videos that have been released, I shot myself. So I really took on a heavy load of dedication and learning during this whole process, and it's made me a better artist, and it's made me a better person as well. And one of my things that I'm really focusing on this year is taking what I've learned during the process of this album, as far as my dedication and as far as my drive, and channeling that same energy into other parts of my life that, I think need work, as far as my health, as far as my finances, as far as my relationship with my wife, as far as my relationship with my family. I'm taking that same approach as far as my drive and dedication to those things that I did with this record in order to improve myself as a person all around, and not just what this did for me as an artist. So
it was
Autopilot.
It was a perfect, man. I'm sorry to cut you off, brother, but it's a perfect quarantine album. Like it really speaks to the mental state that we've all experienced. You know what I'm saying? This year, like this. Like I look back at my rap pictures, and this year was the first year since maybe 15 years that I only did like 5 shows, right? Because I lost pretty much everything as a touring artist because of the pandemic. So I look at all these pictures, I'm like, damn, that was 2019. Like 2020 was just almost didn't exist, right? But like, we needed shit to kind of get us through, to let us like I feel like Autopilot like is a time capsule, and it was made for the people who had to kind of sit their ass down and think, and you know what I'm saying, and like I think a lot of us, I can tell you for me, like the early stages of grief after my father passed away in March, I definitely was on Autopilot from March to probably maybe August. Like in the days, just kind of going through the motions. And I think a lot of people were going through that during the quarantine. So like, you know what I'm saying? And so having an album that speaks to that condition, but at the same time has underlying messages of getting out of Autopilot and living, you know what I'm saying? And you know what I'm saying? And so I think that was important. And congratulations. And like I said, the album is incredible, and just good shit, bro. Good shit, brother. Like I really enjoyed it. I put a couple other people on it. One thing I want to ask, I guess this is my last official question. So another thing that I feel a level of kinship with you is like, even back on the Greenhouse joint that dropped in 2010, you were rapping. I'm guessing you were 30 years old, and you were rapping about having a wife and kids, right? My career didn't really take off until I was 27 years old, and I dropped the EP that kind of like got my career going. It dropped on my 27th birthday, 3 days before my first child was born, right? So you've done, you know, you did a lot of stuff in your teens, and you was kind of out there early, accepted as an MC, you know what I'm saying, because of your skill set while you were young. But a lot of your hardcore grinding and working to like make it to where you can kind of chill now in your 40s happened while you were in your 30s, while you were with wife and children. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So my question to you is, coming up in those early days, how did you balance being a husband and father, you know what I'm saying, in the early days of your career? And I guess the last question I have, what advice would you give to MCs trying to balance a career in art and you know, with your family?
Well, to answer your first question, how did I balance it in the beginning? I didn't.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and similar to what you said, like, got lyrics dropped, I got married and had my first kid, left on my first tour in the same month.
Nigga, what? Your wife, how old were you when you got married?
I was 20.
She a high school sweetheart?
Yeah, something like that. We grew up in church together, so we actually were
Y'all knew
boyfriend
each
and
other.
girlfriend when we were boyfriend and girlfriend when we were like 12, and we went together. We went together for like 6 months, and then we broke up because our parents didn't let us see each other. But we were in church together, and we grew up, and you know, just happened to get back together later on, and ended up, you know, getting married and having a family.
She
So
love you, man. She love you, brother. She love you, man.
hey, bro, like, no, but on some real, like, as far as, you know, the first question, I didn't balance it, and that was the hard thing for her, because as much as she loved me, she was still in the process, and as was I, of trying to find out who she was. And neither one of us understood what marriage was. Neither one of us understood what parenthood was. And here I am marrying her, you know, and she's giving birth to my son. And, you know, 2 weeks later, I'm gone for a month. You know what I'm saying? And it was hard for her. And it wasn't hard for me because I was living out my dream and I didn't understand how it would affect her. Because here she is, a new mom with a new wife, but her husband is gone. Even though he's working, in the mind of a young, because she was 19 when we got married.
Jesus.
You know what I'm saying? And so we were babies basically. And so in her mind, it didn't mean anything that I was making money and sending money home and paying bills. I was gone.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's all that she knew. And, you know, as we continued to grow and my career continued to blossom and I continued to tour and all that, it was hard, man. Like it was one of those things that, you know, she really had to find who she was, and I had to really find who I was in order to make sure that she was taken care of emotionally in order for me to be able to leave. And I didn't really learn that until way later, till after I really started slowing down touring. So, you know, that whole process of touring and family and all of that, I was horrible at balancing. I mean, I missed the birth of my youngest son because I was on the road.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and that's when I took a break. If you look at, you know, like my discography and even stories, after Celestial Clockwork came out, my career was taken off. I went on tour and my son was born and I wasn't there. When I came home, he was already a month old and didn't know who I was, had never seen my face. And that did something to me. I was supposed to go back out on the road 2 weeks later. And this next tour would have solidified me a booking agent, would have basically, it was the tour that would have changed my life as an artist.
Who was
I turned that tour. Huh?
Who was it with?
It was with One Below, Hangar 18, and somebody else. It was whoever the flagship act was at the, I couldn't remember, but it was more about who the booking agency was that was booking the show because they wanted me as an act.
Gotcha.
So that's really what it was about, was more the booking agent than the tour itself. And I turned it down and I didn't tour anymore. And I didn't put another album out for 5 years because I missed that time with my family. And I had to, I mean, shit, like I was on the road and my wife is living with my mom because we had got evicted before I left for the last tour that I was on.
Nigga.
Yeah, like it was,
Shit.
and that's what I'm saying about I didn't have any balance. All I wanted to do was rap. I didn't understand what being a father was. I didn't understand what being a husband was. I didn't understand any of that. All I wanted to do was rap. And because I understood myself and I understood what I was missing, and I really wanted to be with my wife, and I wanted to make it work, and I wanted to make sure that my family was intact, I made the choice to turn those tours down and build a relationship with my family. And that's what I did for those 5 years. And my reputation, my reputation didn't really take a hit, but I was gone from the public basically. During that 5 years, I was still making some music. I was still recording, but I wasn't putting anything out. I wasn't doing any shows. I was just being a family man. So, and then in 2009, I put out Diabolical Fun, and I went back out on the road and had a little more success as far as dealing with the family issues, because at that time, my wife was more, we were both a little more grown. We both understood each other a little more. We had a better relationship. It wasn't perfect yet, and it's never going to be perfect. We're human, but it was better. So I started to tour again, put records out again, and all of that. So I say all that to say this, to answer your last question. The advice that I would give anybody that is a touring artist, that has a family, make sure that you do have balance. Make sure that there is an understanding between you and your spouse and your children of what touring life entails for your family and yourself and for your relationship, because both of you have to be 100% of a person in order for something like that to work. You can't be too much dependent on each other to where if this person is gone for 3 months, you can't survive. You know what I mean? So you have to make sure that you are secure in who you are, and that they are secure in who they are, and that there's communication. You have to communicate. You have to be able to let them know, this is what's going on. This is how long I'm gonna be gone. This is how much money I'm gonna make. But in that process, we are going to be okay because we have this relationship. We've been communicating. We've been building up who we are as a couple and who we are as individuals as well. So this isn't going to break us. It almost broke me and my wife. One of the main reasons that I didn't go back out on that tour is because it wasn't that she gave me an ultimatum, but she did tell me, if you go on this tour, I don't know if I'm going to be here when you get back. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. And I didn't want that because I grew up without my father. Like my father was in jail when I was coming up. I grew up with my stepfather, but my biological father was in jail when I was coming up. So I didn't want to, and who knows, I could have went on that tour and came back and we could have stayed together, and, who knows, but
it wasn't worth the risk. It wasn't worth the risk.
Right. I couldn't take that chance to lose my family because my family was more important. I realized in that moment that my family was more important than my music career. I didn't know that until that moment.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying as far as young people in those positions, or anybody in those positions. Make sure that you understand and that you're willing to sacrifice, things, because it will happen. You will have to sacrifice for your family, and make sure that you're willing to do that, because I may not be a married man right now if I would have went on that tour. I may not have the relationship I have with my wife and have with my kids if I would have went on that tour. So, it's very important to communicate with each other, to understand each other, build a strong relationship with each other, so that, the little things like that, because in the end it is little, in comparison to your family and your relationship with your
100%.
family.
So, did you and your wife ever go to marriage counseling?
Yeah, we did.
Boom.
Multiple times.
100%. And look, I'm saying that because I was a mental health counselor and I'm currently in counseling. We got to kill that stigma that Black folks will go to counseling. So I'm really glad that was your answer. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, whatever. We're gonna do some family counseling too, because we're dealing with shit over here. But 100%, like for me. So I guess my story is somewhat different. I got married at 26. My child was born couple days after I turned 27. My wife was 24 at the time or whatever. So we were a little bit older than 19 to 20. But my career didn't really take off like when I was actually making some money till I was 30. And I didn't really start touring heavy until I was like, I'm a late bloomer like a motherfucker. I didn't really start touring heavy till maybe like my mid-30s or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like 32, 33. So it's different coming out the South. It just is. And we talk about that's a whole nother conversation. But I've never done anything without my wife's permission. You know what I'm saying? Never. And a lot of this is because my dad was on my head about it. Like my father was a gospel musician, so every other week, he was in somebody's church singing in somebody's auditorium or somewhere's program revival. You know what I'm saying? Somewhere in Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, whatever, in the surrounding states, and even California and other places like that or whatever. But so for me, I grew up kind of like a kid, like every other weekend doing weekend runs. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's natural for me to do that. And I think my wife knew that when she married me, right? But and my wife is not even a person that's like hands-on in my career, but nothing gets done without a permission. So if it's a weekend, if it's a 3-day weekend run to the Midwest, or if it's a 2-week tour in the South, it doesn't happen without a permission. I always run it past her. And that's something that my dad really pressed upon me. Because like you said, like my biggest fear is having my children call somebody else daddy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you know what I'm saying? You gotta do it for the babies. You gotta keep it a bean, you know what I'm saying? And a whole nother conversation is people will be surprised that for all the rappers out there, we talking about, you know what I'm saying, communicate with your wife. Don't be out there acting the ass with these groupies at these shows, man. It ain't worth it, man. And people be surprised. Underground, backpack, alternative conscious, nigga, groupies like all type of rappers.
Oh, come on.
It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Like Fonte say, Martin Luther King ain't die for you be out here tricking off on these hoes. You know what I'm saying? So
it ain't worth it at all.
It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Yeah. So thank you, bro. Thank you. Like I always look to like you know, people who have more experience than me to kind of kick that game out there for myself and for whoever's listening. So I understand that was more of a personal question, and I appreciate you giving me that answer. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate that. All right. So you've heard me talk a lot about Super Duty Tough Work for the people that's watching. Boom. I'm gonna take this down so people can see. This is the Twitter or what have you. Let me. Oh, it don't matter. This is the Twitter. This is the Twitter. You know what I'm saying? If you want to follow it there, they're on Instagram as well. As you see, they just released the 90 Days of Discipline Result Show, which is great, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Shout out for 234 episodes. I got on Super Duty on episode 41 because it was right after, it was when I met Blueprint through Superstition in 2015, and they toured in New Orleans.
Okay.
So I caught that tour. And so we going through, and I was just on a big Superstition kick, and I see that he did Super Duty Tough Work, and they were talking about the benefits of ownership. And ever since then, I've been hooked. I went back, listened to everything. And out of 234, it might be 10 episodes I've missed. So, and I'm always telling people, hey, y'all need to fucking listen to, like, if you're an independent artist, independent creative, underground guy, DIY guy, y'all two guys are the people to listen to. So this is the podcast. And for people who like to watch it, I was telling my partner, I get popcorn and watch this shit like it's a goddamn TV show. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They on YouTube and you heard me? Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, like, so this is incredible content. It's criminal that all this shit is for free. Like, you know, as a person who is taking a lot of your lessons and applied it to my career, I want to say thank you, and big shout out to Blueprint as well. Super duper shout out to Blueprint as well. Got to get him. Maybe one day he'll grace me with his presence. And so, last but not least, man, if y'all want to get up with the man Illogic, this is his website. IamIllogic.com. You know, this says pre-order, but the album is out now, autopilot. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's available on all streaming pages. But I know we talking about streaming on pay shit. We talk about getting that money. So if you really want to put some bread directly in his pocket, good people, as I've been preaching, make sure you go to his Bandcamp. You feel me? He got all type of packages and you know what I'm saying? He got the autopilot joint with the records and the t-shirt and the CD. Shout out to still selling CDs. I thank you for that. Yeah. He got the posters. He got, you know what I'm saying? He got all the content. And I'm gonna ask you, I see you got 6 remaining. You got any big nigga sizes in these shirts, man?
Like I got I think I might have sold out because I had some triple X, I had some double X. I got to check,
Man, look,
but I might have sold because I didn't get that many. But like my little brothers are a little bigger too. So they was like, yo, you gotta get some sizes for us. So I think I ordered like maybe 6 or 7 like triple X and double X, but I might be sold out of them because I usually don't have big sizes, and cats saw that I have big sizes and they was ordering them.
which look, I don't know. I might have been sitting down, or plus I was in shape before, well, not in shape, but I was slimmer than I am now, bro. I'm like 6'4", 400 plus pounds. So 3X ain't gonna do me nothing. I do want to get out of pilot shirt. I do want to get an autopilot shirt, and I will pay the extra for you to get a 5X because I like to support. I wear all polo, but I like to support artists. You know what I'm saying? I got all type of artist merchandise and hats and masks and all type of stuff or whatever. So I want to get with you about that. You just let me know how much it costs or whatever. Follow his social media.
Illogic 614 on everything.
Illogic 614 ILLOGIC. Man, I really appreciate you doing this conversation with me, man. It's been an honor and a privilege. Hopefully, once the world opens back up and I get back to Columbus and do 2x2, whatever, we can definitely link up and just do some work or whatever, man. Anything you want to say before we say goodnight to the good people?
Man, just thank you for having me, and yeah, man, support this, man. Support all underground hip hop, man. We out here doing God's work. You know what I mean?
This is really Outchea, exclusively at MarcelPeopleAct.com. Allah Muhammad, freedom.